The diner won't provide the man food. Next day, he turns up in uniform. After 45 minutes of waiting in line, Baker was informed that she was unable to service him and refused to provide an explanation. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. It was rare for someone to defy him and give him the impression that they were in charge. He realized his authority would be useless in this situation. She must not have known who he was. He was looking forward to seeing her expression when she recognized who she was dealing with. He was all set for his vacation day. He wanted nothing more than to sit down and unwind for a day after working 12-hour shifts straight. Alexandrian Carl Baker only needed a vacation. He had prepared this day quite well. Eating out and sleeping in were two of the most essential items on the schedule. He would also walk outside and enjoy the sunshine and clean air. Then he'd watch TV and crack open a cold one come nightfall. Baker was startled awake by his dog leaping on him. He saw the sun coming through the drapes when he opened one eye. It was already beyond 12. Grinning, he dressed. While preparing his own coffee, he considered the next item on the schedule. He gave it some thinking and went to the neighborhood diner. It was somewhere he had never had time to visit. Apparently, though, the meal was excellent. He had no idea how much he would regret getting there. He was staring at with shady stares from others. Someone hadn't given him that kind of gaze in a long time. Usually, people regarded him a little differently when he was in his job uniform, but in this case, nobody knew who he was. Baker entered the restaurant and moved to the rear of the queue. As he waited, he could feel his appetite rising. He made up his mind after taking a peek at the menu. The minutes ticked past. He made his selections from the menu, focusing on only 2 items. Despite all of his wonderful traits, he has particular tastes in cuisine. He had thus anticipated that the meal at the restaurant would live up to his expectations. He reasoned that the 45 minutes he would have to stand in line for his supper would be well worth it. He was erroneous, though. He could be patient when necessary, even when the wait seemed much longer than he'd expected. But after only a short period, his patience would begin to run thin. At last, Baker had reached the front of the line and was prepared to place his meal order and take a seat. But he would turn scarlet at what came next. Grinning, Baker greeted the woman working behind the counter. She gave him a frustrated expression as she glanced back at him. She was clearly not having a good start to the day because she was preoccupied with chewing gum. He dismissed it with a smile on his face and asked for what he wanted. Maybe if she adopted his mentality, Baker reasoned, she might get better. He was certain that he could be of assistance. He placed his order for the meal he had chosen, but to his dismay, he heard her inform him that it was not available. Though taken aback, he continued to follow his backup plan. She shook her head once again when he asked for the other order. Baker felt his frustration building. They hadn't even served him his meal after he had been waiting for 45 minutes. He was able to see the order under the special section of the menu. Had he known right away that the food he desired was unavailable, he would never have bothered to go. He was also growing weary of her bad attitude. He questioned what they really had and said that they would take it from there, keeping his fury to himself. She gave him a contemptuous look, as though to suggest that he was a moron for posing such a question. Her lack of menu selections and her bad attitude were starting to get to him a little too much, he felt. He had to express his opinions. "That's it," Baker concluded. "Can I speak to your manager?" he said coolly, remaining still. She moved aside and called out to the kitchen in the rear without saying anything. She stared blankly back at Baker, and a lady answered her summons by emerging. After glancing at Baker, she turned to face the queue behind him. "Sir, what's the issue here? Now you're supporting the folks in your wake." Baker could see where the employee's attitude originated. This was not going to be fun, he realized. He told her what happened and how management should address the issue, ignoring the derogatory implication that he was the source of these absurd statements. He felt his fury boil at her remark. To the manager's amazement, a female cook then appeared at the register and said, "You better pull me off the line because I'm not serving him," pointing to Baker. This was undoubtedly inappropriate conduct on the part of her employees. Baker waited for the manager to move, but she started giggling. Baker calmly and collectedly warned them that there would be consequences if they did not improve the way they treated their clients. She did not appreciate his guidance as Baker had expected. "I know that today wasn't how you had hoped, sir, but that's just how life works. Right now, will you please leave my establishment?" She snarled, "I don't serve men like you." "Men like me?" Baker gave an astonished response. By men like him, what did she mean? Baker was done. He had had enough of being Mr. Nice Guy. He informed her that he was speaking out for her own benefit and restated his reason for speaking with her in a more authoritative tone. He now insisted that she clarify her meaning when she said that guys like him. But the next thing she did would dispel any doubt about revenge from his mind. She seemed belligerent and cold-blooded. "I don't have to justify my intentions to anyone. Before you make a disturbance, you out now," she angrily said. Baker was flushed. He was not accustomed to people looking down on him, nor was he used to people defying him like this. Nobody ought to be. She obviously didn't know who he was or the extent of the power at his disposal. This confirmed his frequent belief that stepping out of uniform was a great way to get a true sense of people. Baker could see she was not going to behave like a grown-up when speaking to him. When others started to notice, he felt totally degraded and mocked. He surveyed the room, taking in every set of eyes and ears focused on him. Realizing nearly everyone in the diner was staring at him, his cheeks went hot. Though he didn't recognize anyone there, he was curious whether any of the patrons did. Had they most likely would not have believed that any diner would have the audacity to treat him in such a manner. Baker had nothing else to say and walked out of the diner. Their actions infuriated, and embarrassed him. He could not allow them to go unpunished. He was going to go past the upsetting beginning of his day and come back tomorrow to deal with this experience in the uniform that reminds him to treat and serve everyone with respect. Then, how would they respond? Baker wore his chief of police outfit and reported for duty the next day. After his day off, he had a lot to catch up on. Though he was busy, he had already made a self-promise to contact the diner and reveal his true identity. He was eager to witness their trembling in their boots. And they actually did. While returning from a field call, Baker made a stop at the diner. Having been fortunate enough to locate a parking spot, he drew his cruiser up just outside and rushed through the doors. He had a serious expression. The diner was filled with the atmosphere of his presence. Baker was a big, wide man who gave off an air of power while he was wearing his uniform. Now he was the center of attention for everyone. They greeted him with respect and smiles. All the employees' expressions brightened up at once, even the cashier, who was now much more focused. Her grin of welcome gradually vanished as soon as she realized who he was. He asked for the manager, letting go of niceties. The cashier called for the manager in an insincere manner, but this time she went to the kitchen door in the rear and called. She appeared to be being polite now. Baker stood clutching a radio gadget in one hand and his belt in the other. He certainly had the right appearance, especially when his radio beeped out updates from the officers. He bided his time till she emerged. But a different manager was in charge today, and she apologized right away after learning what Baker had told her. She also promised to start an internal inquiry into her co-workers' actions. Soon after, witnesses' posts on social media criticizing the officer's subpar performance spread the word about the incident. The eatery was now compelled to make a statement. When questioned about the staff's terrible conduct of the police, a dining representative didn't attempt to refute the allegations. She told reporters that everything had transpired precisely as Baker had recounted. The restaurant expressed shock at the extreme disrespect displayed to a law enforcement official and pledged to investigate the incident further. Would it, however, be sufficient? They expect the best moral standards both personally and professionally from their team members, according to a public statement. We are dedicated to treating everyone with respect and decency because we cherish each and every one of our visitors. Discrimination in any form is not acceptable to us. To investigate and settle this issue as soon as possible, we are collaborating with the relevant authorities and members of the local police association, the statement continued. We have attempted to contact the concerned police officer, but we have not yet had a conversation with him. After this evaluation is over, we'll keep investigating the matter and take the necessary measures. The people was incensed as the news swiftly spread on Facebook and Twitter. Despite the establishment's haste to maintain its composure, locals in Alexandria attacked the restaurant, threatening to boycott them until the guilty persons were prosecuted. In the community, Baker is revered as a hero, particularly for his many years of selfless devotion and kindness. Although the eatery was the target of some rather harsh remarks on Facebook, Baker wished to remain silent about the matter. His primary goal was to bring those responsible to justice and return to making sure that everyone, police officer or not, was treated with dignity. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.